Okay, this is the June 18th, the year 2005.
19.
June 19th. Okay, and this is an interview with who we're going to find out. What is your full name?
Mary Elizabeth Catherine McInnes Kroeger. Did you want all that?
Yeah. Did you have any nicknames growing up?
Mary Ginn.
Mary Ginn?
Mary Ginn. When I got to high school, I was Mary Mick. And Doug called me Magoonis.
Magoonis?
Magoonis.
I don't remember that.
You never heard it, probably.
Were you named after someone else?
I was named after the Blessed Virgin and my mother's mother. And my dad's mother always thought I was named for her because she was Molly. But that wasn't the way it was.
Sorry to disappoint. Huh?
Yeah.
What is your birth date?
August 6, 1924.
Do you know the time of day?
No, I don't.
Do you know where you were born?
I was born at the Bethesda Hospital in Cincinnati.
Oh. When did you get married?
I got married in 1946, September 14th.
Where was that?
I'll ruin this life.
No.
It was at Blessed Sacrament Church in Fort Mitchell.
What are your parents' names and their grandparents' names?
Wow.
Let's start with, yeah.
Where should we start? My dad?
Yeah.
Edward Joseph McInnes. His dad was John James McInnes. His mother was Molly Sullivan McInnes.
Okay.
My mother's name was Edith Catherine Muthler McInnes. Her dad was Paul Muthler, and her mother was Mary Muthler. Her maiden name was Armarod, A-R-M-A-R-O-D.
Great. Did they have any nicknames?
Not that I know of.
Yeah. The kids didn't have, you didn't have nicknames for any of them.
Mom and Dad,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And Pop, well, yeah, Pop was Pop, you know,
Yeah.
that was my dad's dad. I guess you can say that was a nickname. Everybody called him that.
Were there other family members in the immediate area besides your family?
No, my dad had a half-brother who probably died before I was born. And Mother had a brother who lived in Louisville.
Okay.
And I knew him well, but, you know, they didn't live locally.
Let's talk about that house you grew up in.
Okay.
What was that? Was it a house?
It was a house.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like? How many rooms, bathrooms?
It was a small house. And it was like 3 rooms in a row. And then there were 2 rooms upstairs with the bathroom on the 2nd floor. And this house was built in 1925. So consequently, they had no insulation, nothing like that. And believe me, in the summer, that place was hot. It was unbelievably hot.
In fact, you were saying the other night how your parents used to sleep out on the front porch?
We would, they'd sit in the front yard with their feet propped up on the front steps. And then Mac and I would be asleep on the living room floor because we couldn't go upstairs. It was just too hot up there.
Well, you did have indoor plumbing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, nice little bathroom, full basement, stationary tubs, same as today, you know.
Yeah, electricity.
Furnace in the basement, and a coal bin, because we burned coal at that time.
And how often would the coal come?
Well, we'd always get a big load of coal in the fall. And then sometime, maybe late winter, would have to be replenished because it would never be enough, you know. But every night my daddy had to stoke, I don't know how they did it. They banked it. They fixed it so that it would burn overnight, you know. And then the next morning go down and shake that. I can remember him shaking that thing and get all the cinders down and then refix it, reload it, you know, and warm it up again.
When you think back to that house, were there any special items that are easy for you to remember right now?
I can remember it clearly.
What is it? The house itself?
Yeah,
Anything in particular about the house?
no, it was just home,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And it was a nice little house, it really was. And we had a nice little yard, and I can picture the yard, and my mother had hollyhocks growing all across the way in the back, and she always had flowers in a little garden. And she had 4 o'clocks, and you don't even know what they are anymore. But they were all along the side of the house, and they bloomed all summer long. So, and we had a nice big tree in the front yard. We always had a dog,
What was the dog's name?
Snooky,
Oh, Snooky. What kind of dog was it?
box terrier.
Hmm.
And then she got tangled up with the Airedale next door, and then we had Muggsy. And she looked like a little wire-haired terrier. And we had her a long time. She was nice.
Did the dog next door kill the other dog?
Oh no,
Oh.
just fathered her next litter.
So that was the little baby, little
Yeah.
pup. Describe one of your early childhood memories.
Boy, I don't know. You know, they all kind of mesh together.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't, I don't know where to put my finger on one of them.
Okay, something
particularly.
might occur to you as we
Yeah,
talk.
right.
How hard would it be to describe the personalities of the family members of your family growing up?
My parents, you mean?
And the kids?
Well, my mother was, she was a very patient woman. She had to be, and to put up with the rest of us. And she always wanted us to be together. Her family was fractured. Her mother died when she was 4 years old, and she had a very rough life after that. So she always wanted our family to be close, and which I think we were, and still are. And my dad was a hot-headed Irishman, and funny as heck when he wanted to be, but extremely critical.
Yeah. And you were
He was a good dad. He was
Yeah.
always there, you know.
Yeah.
He never wandered or anything. He was
Yeah.
a good dad.
And you were the oldest,
I was the oldest.
so he got to practice on you.
Oh, he did. He expected a lot of me.
Yeah. Before he got to the other two kids.
Yeah. He might have been just as hard on them, I don't know.
Yeah. Have to ask them. Do you remember any kind of games that you all used to play, kids?
Summer games?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we played jacks on a rainy day on the front porch. And if it was a rainy day, we would run in the gutters with our bare feet. And on hot days, we would go to the swimming pool. And it was a little playground pool. We could walk there, and it was nice. And we'd wait for the ice cream man. And I don't remember. I don't know what. Oh, we'd play tag and all that stuff in the evening, you know.
How much was an ice cream?
Probably a nickel.
And what kind was it?
I don't know
Yeah.
that. Maybe an ice cream bar,
Yeah.
you know.
Did you have a favorite toy, or and why was it your favorite toy? You remember something like that?
No, wasn't a doll person. I was more of a doing person,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and liked to play with the neighbors.
Yeah.
And
Who taught you how to sew?
well, Mother started to teach me when I was about in the 7th grade. She thought maybe it was about time, you know. So she let me have a quarter. And I went down to Coppins, walked downtown, and I was able to buy 3 yards of material for a quarter. Can you believe that? 10 cents a yard or 3 yards for a quarter. Of course, I don't know what quality it was. It probably shrunk up like nobody's business. But anyway, I started out to make skirts. And that was fine. I made those gathered skirts and wore them. And then I tried to do some dresses. And so when I went to high school, then I started to have some formal sewing lessons in high school.
At the school
As a
itself?
yeah, the sisters taught us
Yeah.
then. And then they taught us how to read patterns and how to do it the way they told you to do it, which has always been a benefit.
When did you make the first piece of clothing that you were actually willing to wear outside in public?
Probably that first summer I made those skirts. They were just gathered onto the waistband and wasn't anything to it. But, you know, I was glad to have it, I guess.
And you've been sewing ever since?
Yeah, yeah.
Huh.
Even a little today.
Yeah, that's right. What were your family chores?
Chores?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I did a lot of dishes.
Was that the least favorite?
It's hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
When I was mother, let me see, mother decided I should learn to iron the summer that Pat was on the way, which would have been 1936, so I was 12 then. So, and maybe I ironed a little before that because she used to have, she had an electric iron, but she also had the old-fashioned irons that you had to heat on the stove and hold it with a pot holder because the whole thing would get hot. And I would be allowed to iron the pillow slips and Daddy's handkerchiefs, anything flat. She let me do all that. And we would do it together. We would stand in the basement and iron, and I loved it because,
You're spending time with your mom.
yeah,
When did you graduate to more complicated clothing?
I guess I just kind of worked my way into it.
Pretty soon you were doing it all. Did you receive an allowance?
I guess it was called that. It wasn't much.
Yeah, they gave you...
Nickel or a dime a week, maybe.
Yeah.
We would get a nickel on Sunday and be able to go and get an ice cream or something like that, you
But
know.
not enough ever to save.
No, no.
Do you remember saving your first dollar?
No. I probably had a special thing I wanted to buy to you know, to encourage me to save, but I can't
Can't remember
think of
what
what it was, yeah.
What was school like for you?
It was good. I like school.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite subject?
No, can't think that I did. Probably sewing when I got into high school.
Yeah.
I loved sewing. I really did. And I enjoyed high school a lot more than grade school. It was just a lot more fun.
What was it about sewing that you enjoyed so much?
I don't know, because it was productive, I guess.
Yeah. And like it was hands-on, you were doing something.
Yeah, and I had something to show for it when I was finished.
You're such a good reader. Did you enjoy your reading?
Yeah, oh yeah, I always did like to read.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the summer, that was one of my nicest pastimes, to have a book on a
Good
rainy
book.
day. Yeah.
Do you remember any good books you read as a kid?
I remember, no, I always liked nice stories, you
Yeah.
know, I didn't like any violence.
Right. Worst subject?
Please, worst?
Yeah.
Oh, gee, that'd be hard to say. I was never an A student. Worst subject? Probably history. I
Well-
found that to be very difficult to
Yeah.
remember. All those occasions and dates and everything, you know.
How about you went? Tell us what the different schools you went to.
Well,
Started out.
I went to the 5th District, that's what it was called, the 5th District School in Covington, and I went to kindergarten there. And I had the nicest teacher, her name was Miss Stella, and she was a darling woman. She was there for years and years. Everybody in that end of Covington had Miss Stella for kindergarten. So then when I went to the 1st grade, we had moved to Middletown, and I had to go to school there. And I also went to the public school in Middletown because the Catholic school was too far away, and Mother didn't want to put me on a bus. So I could walk to the public school, which I did. And my teacher's name there was Miss Beaton, B-E-A-T-O-N, and she was another lovely woman. So then we moved back to Covington, to the same little house, and then I was able to go to St. Augustine's, which was two blocks away, and then I had the Notre Dame sisters. And Sister Marcel was my 2nd grade teacher, and she just died recently, and I kept in touch with her up until the time that she died. And she was a darling woman. And then on through the 8th grade, and then went to Notre Dame Academy for high school. okay?
Was college ever an option for you?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't even mentioned. I had to get a job, which I wanted to do because everything was really tight. And we had been through the Depression in those years. And this was 1942 when I graduated from high school. So I got a job right away. And my first job was at the Williamson Heater Company in downtown Cincinnati. And I worked there. Well, I had a job while I was in high school too. I worked at Kresge's on 5th Street, which then turned into Kmart. But I worked there on Monday evening and all day Saturday. Got like $2.05 for my efforts a week. And that tells you.
Yeah.
So there wasn't any question about college, and I really didn't want to go. I had no inclination to go to college. I just wanted to get a job.
Had it ever been discussed?
No.
And were there any of the young women that you knew actually go to college?
Yes, some of them did. Some of my high school graduates did go to college, and several of them on scholarship, but not many of them. Most of them went to work.
Went to work, yeah. Do you regret that at all?
Not at all. I did take a couple of night classes, and I took other things as years went along, you know, but no formal college education.
Do you remember any fads or popular hairstyles that you remember from your youth? Or clothes?
Clothes. Well, kind of hard to remember that. My hairstyle was just, my hair was so curly, I couldn't do much with it. So I just had to go with the flow. And I know Helen always had that real thick, straight hair, and it would do anything she wanted it to, and it was beautiful. Mine, it would take a rainy day and it would curl up, you know, so that's what it was. And the clothing, well, was pretty ordinary. I can't remember anything. No, we did wear shorts, but mostly it was dresses for girls. And slacks weren't in vogue then.
When do you, so did you ever wear slacks?
I can't remember when I started to wear slacks. Maybe I had a pair for picnics or something like that, you know, but
Nothing before then?
I can't remember.
Do you remember any inventions?
That were made in my lifetime?
Especially back earlier, during your teen years or your childhood, that...
I know we thought the radio was a wonderful thing. And the refrigerator, I can remember our first refrigerator. We couldn't believe that we could get ice out of that we didn't put in there.
What was that like?
Oh, that was wonderful. Just to have everything cold all the time and not have to have that old ice box that we used to have, where you have to put a big chunk of ice in there. I had an iceman came around, you know, and you'd buy a block of ice. He'd come every couple of days in the summer. And then there was a pan underneath that caught the drippings. And if you forgot to empty that pan, you were in big trouble. To manage to get that over to the sink without spilling, it was tricky. But anyway, the refrigerator and an electric fan, I can't remember when we got our first electric fan. But that way, all electricity was just awesome.
Yeah.
We had electric lights, but no, not any major appliances,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Although I think my mother must have had an electric washing machine. Yeah, I think she did.
Because before that, you were using that thing, how would
she
you
did.
wash your clothes before that?
On a board. They rubbed it on a board, and they boiled their clothing in copper kettles.
You remember boiling your clothing?
Yeah, I can remember my mother doing it. I never had to do it. But we had some, as I say, we had the iron, and she must have had the washer. But the refrigerator came and I can't remember what year it was, but oh wow, that was so wonderful. We couldn't wait for the first ice cubes to freeze.
That was a major event.
Oh, it was.
And that wasn't any defrosting type. You had.
Oh, yeah, we had to defrost it, yeah.
Do you ever remember not having enough food to eat?
Never. We always had enough food to eat. Yeah. My mother always had a nice meal. I can remember that she would send me to the grocery with a quarter. And I would tell the butcher I wanted 6 nice lean pork chops. And I would get that for a quarter. Can you believe that?
No.
No. And Mother was a good cook.
Yeah.
And she was.
Well, did she have any especially favorite things that she'd make that you
wonderful at baking.
Baking anything?
Yeah, anything, yeah. And we didn't have electric mixers either. She beat it with her hand. And she made all kind of nice things for us. Pies, wonderful pies.
Were you or any member of your family mentioned in a newspaper?
Probably only when my engagement was announced.
Yeah.
That might be the first time.
Yeah.
Fortunately.
Was Grandpa ever in the newspaper?
Yes, he was. He was in the newspaper quite a bit through the war. He worked for the OPA, which was the Office of Price Administration, and they took care of some rationing, wartime rationing. And of course that was the hot news item, you know. So his picture was in the paper a good bit with that. And he held that job very well.
Who were your good friends growing up?
Well, my first really good friend was Helen. And, you better shut that off.
Oh, yeah. It's okay. I'll just clip that out. What makes you think? Why does it bring tears to your eyes?
It's been a pretty wonderful friendship.
Yeah.
Mother, do you think I could ask Doug Kroeger? She said, I don't know, why not? So I did. And he said yes. Well, she said you could have heard me 2 blocks away when I hung up. Because he said yes, he'd go with me. So then before that, well, I know I asked him at least a month ahead of time. And I wanted to make sure, you know. So, but before that came about, he asked me for a date. So I was real excited about that.
Now, he went off to the service.
Yeah.
Before you were married?
Oh yeah. Uh-huh. Oh yeah. In fact, he came out of the service before we were married.
Okay.
He didn't go in until maybe, I don't know what year he went in, 43 maybe, or maybe 42, I don't know.
The year it started.
It started in 41. But he was taking care of Rose and Laverne, so he didn't, he had a deferment for that reason. But anyway, he wanted to go so bad. Everybody was gone, you know. And so finally then Rose decided she would get a job and he could join. And that's what he did. He joined the Air Force then. But in between there, we had broken off. My parents were very concerned because he was almost 4 years older than I was, and they thought we were getting serious, you know. And I was too young. I didn't think so, but I was. So finally I told him, you know, this is too much trouble. I can't stand it. It's fighting all the time at home with us. So that's it. And then I dated other fellas. So then I knew he was in the service, but I didn't hear from him or anything. And one night, this is a couple of years later, I don't remember what year it was. 45, I guess, 45. He called me and he said, would it be all right if he came to see me? And I said, well, yeah, I guess so. You know, I hadn't talked to him or heard from him for maybe 2 years. I don't remember. I guess from 43 to 45 it was. And And he was at the door within 10 minutes. He had called me from the drugstore in Fort Mitchell. And there he was in his second lieutenant's uniform. Well, that's all I needed.
And how old, you were a couple years older, so how old would you have been when he
I
showed
was
up?
probably 20.
20, okay.
Mhm.
So what happened then?
Well, he was home on leave. So we went out. Well, that night we just stayed at home and talked to my mom and dad, and then they went to bed and we still talked. So then he wanted to know if would I go out the next night. I said, sure. Well, I think we went out every night that week. And well, on Sunday night then we went to the Lookout House. That was a nightclub over there on Dixie Highway. Real nice place. And you had dinner there, and then they had a dance floor, and they always had a big name band, and we danced. And he asked me if I would marry him, and I said yes. And by Friday that week, I had my engagement ring.
From the beginning of that week to the end of the week?
Yeah.
Wow.
This very ring. So, and then he had to go back, and then
Let's see the ring up here. Show that to us.
this very
Yeah,
ring.
that's it. Okay.
And then when he came out of the service, well, then the war ended in, I guess that year, 45, didn't it? In the summer of 45. And then he was discharged in the fall. And he had to come home and get a job and everything. So then we wanted to get married in the spring, but then it was too soon, so we planned it then for the September of 46.
Who was your maid of honor?
Oh, Helen was in California.
Oh.
She got married while Carl was still in service and went out there, so Helen wasn't here. But my friend Margie Lysing Smith, she lived in Dayton. Now, after she got married the week before Doug and I did. That was amazing. 2 weeks before. She got married over the Labor Day weekend, and we got married on the 14th. And Joe and Georgina got married that Labor Day weekend, too. Everybody was coming home and everybody was getting married, you know.
And who's the best man?
Either Carol Booley or Pat Adams. Pat Adams and Mac were in the wedding, and Carol Booley, I think, was Doug's best man.
Did you have a honeymoon?
Yeah, we went, you'll laugh, we went to Spring Mill State Park in Indiana.
Oh.
Yeah, for several days, I don't know how long. And Rose let us use her car,
Which was?
which was a '39 Dodge. Oh.
Any advice you'd give to your grandchildren? As they have, maybe a couple of them are approaching marriage, would you have any advice for them on their wedding day?
That's a big order.
That you can maybe go think back on the main things that made your marriage last. What would you want to share with
You
them?
just have to really be in love with someone, that's all I can say. And you have to be willing to go through anything for them. And both of you have to feel that way.
Yeah. So after you were married, how long was it before you had your first child?
About a year and a half.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
Greg,
and he was born when?
March 12th, 1948. 9 pounds and 3 ounces. Ready to go.
You might as well name the other three.
Okay, and Michael, April 18th, 1950. Stephen, July 16th, 1953. And Jim, July 3rd, 1955. Okay.
If you had to do it all over again, would you do it?
What? Get married and have those children?
Yeah.
Heavens, yes. No question about that.
Would you change anything?
No. I can't think that I would.
What did you find most difficult about raising those 4 boys?
Oh, boy. Just trying to keep them under my thumb. And they didn't want to stay there.
No. What did you find most rewarding about being a parent?
Oh, just watching them grow up, and It was wonderful experience. I guess it was the best thing I ever did in my life. Best for me anyway. I don't know about that.
So, the key to a successful marriage is really loving someone.
In my opinion, it is that.
And
And I'm a firm believer that alcohol has an awful lot to do with the trouble in the world today and in marriages today. And I don't want to preach about it, but that's the way I feel.
yeah,
And Doug's dad had an alcohol problem, and I know what it did to their family, and I just wouldn't want that to happen to anybody else's family in my relationship.
yeah. What were some of the hardest choices you've ever had to make?
Gee.
Can you think of anything?
Probably moving to Cincinnati was one of them.
Why was that so hard to make?
Because my roots were all over in Covington, and even though I felt like it was the right thing to do because Doug worked over here in the suburbs, and it was such a trip every day for him, and I just thought it would be easier for him if we moved over here, so we did. But I didn't think I'd stay. I thought we'd live here a few years and go back. But here it is, 55 years later. And I wouldn't go back now,
No,
of course.
no. Who would be? Go ahead. Who would be the person or persons who had the most influence on your life as you look back?
Well, it had to be my mother. I would think it was my mother.
Yeah. Anything stand out about that?
She was just a wonderful all-around person. She really was. And maybe I didn't appreciate it at the time.
Yeah, we always
Yeah.
tend to appreciate things better
Yeah.
later on, don't you?
But we did have a good relationship.
Yeah.
I know we did.
Any major illnesses you've had in your life? You've been.
Oh, I had a lot of surgery, but
You've had really good health.
I did it. I'm blessed with good health. So I had to have it to keep up with those boys.
Is there anything you've
You wanna
always
cut
wanted?
this out or what?
Yeah.
Please do.
We're almost at the end here.
Okay.
Is there anything you've always wanted to do but haven't done yet?
No, I never really was interested that much in traveling. I always wanted a screened-in back porch, and we never did it.
Yes.
And that's my one of my regrets. I guess the main one. Pretty dumb, isn't it?
When you think back at your own family, what do you think were the happiest moments? What did they enjoy doing the most together?
You mean my family or my family at home with my parents here? I don't know what they enjoyed most. I always enjoyed gatherings when everyone's together. I think that's a hereditary thing. I got it from my mother, and I still enjoy that. And I always still enjoy getting together with Pat's family and Mac's family too. You know, I love all those children and them, my brother and sister both, and their spouses, you know.
If you were going to choose a profession, if you had like another lifetime to go, what might you choose to do? Any ideas on that?
I'd probably be teaching something, but of course I would have had a different kind of an education to do that.
Yeah.
But I think that would be the thing I would enjoy more than anything.
Did you think about teaching?
No, I never did. Never did.
When did that occur to you that you enjoy doing something
Probably
like that?
that year I went to St. Rita's and taught with those little deaf children, helped that teacher with the sewing class.
And what about that experience made you think that you might enjoy it?
Well, I enjoyed that so much, I thought to myself, if I had it to do over again, maybe this is what I would have done. I don't know. I don't know if I'd have had the opportunity to do it or not, but I sure did enjoy it.
What are some of the things you want us to remember about you?
Huh. Oh, Lord, I hope they don't remember the way I used to scream at them. I'm reminding them right now. But just hope that we had good times together and a lot of laughs and nice family gatherings.
Yeah.
Very simple person, really.
Yeah. That's a good thing. Any final thoughts?
This has been very nice. And nice. I really didn't say much about Mac and Pat.
Go ahead, let's talk about them a little bit. Yeah, because when we were talking about your childhood, we didn't really touch on the siblings as much.
No, we didn't.
But after your birth, of course, there was Mac.
Yeah.
And how much longer was that?
Well, it was 4 years, but there was another child between us. Kathleen was her name. And she died when she was 27 months old. And at that time, I was 5 years old. And then Mac, I forget how old he was then. He was a baby, I think. So anyway, then, it was a very sad time for all of us. It was just unbelievable. And
Because that's over 2 years old.
Yeah.
What was the cause of that child's death?
Well, I really can't talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't want to.
Yeah.
It was an accidental death.
Yeah.
And anyway, then, and then when my grandparents came to live with us, I was about, let's see, 1933. Grandma McGinnis got sick, and they came to live with us, Pop and Grandma McGinnis. And Mother nursed her through cancer. And then she died the following March, and Pop never went home. He stayed with us after that. And that was good. He was just oh, you're getting glare from that?
Yeah.
He was a real pleasure to have around. And,
Pop was?
Pop, oh yeah. He was great. And he was a shoemaker. And when he started out, he was a shoemaker, and he had been trained by his dad to do that, and then he became a shoe repairman because they didn't want any handmade shoes anymore. So he kept his little shop, and he worked until he was 80 years old. What do you know? Can you turn it off now?
Yeah.
And until he was 88, and that was in 1944, and then he died at our house. And he had a very short illness, and he was wonderful.
And I remember you telling us about the rooms, and you finally got your own rooms after that.
Yeah.
But Mac, talk about a little bit about Mac.
Mac, well, Mac was 4 years younger than me, and he was always a very busy boy. I guess we didn't have a lot in common at that time until we grew up, you know. But he was always funny, and he loved to tease me about my boyfriends whenever anybody would come, you know. And so we had a lot of fun together, and we used to fight too. And then when I was 12, Pat was born. And that was in 1937, and she was born. Right when she was born, we had the 37 flood. And then she had to go, Mother and she had to leave the hospital and go to Norwood to stay with Mother's friend because we didn't have anything in Covington. No water, no heat, nothing. And it was January. So that was a hard time in my life. I forgot about that. That was one of the hardest times of my life because we had to stay with our great aunts and uncle.
Well, why did you have to stay with them?
Well, we had to get out of our house because the water came in. And
The flood.
the flood, yeah. And the furnace went out, the hot water heater went out, the water came in, the basement was filled with water to the very top. Some people on that street had water on the first floor, but we didn't. We must have just been a few inches higher and didn't get it on the first floor.
And how long was it before you got back in the house?
A good 2 weeks. It was terrible. It was just terrible.
You had to clean that out yourself.
Daddy did it. Oh, everything in that basement was covered with mud. The washing machine had floated up to the other end of the basement, was up by the coal bin. And he had threw all the Christmas decorations away. Mother was upset. but they were all covered with mud. You couldn't have them. So anyway, well, it was a grand reunion when she came home, I'll tell you. So we had to go home and get the house ready for her to bring the new baby home, you know. So that was Pat. So then...
Did you, the three of you, do much together? Because there's
such an age difference.
Span.
No, oh, I used to push her in the after school every day. I took her for a walk. But really, no, we didn't have a lot in common. And then I remember when Greg was born, she would come to my house and she liked to play with Greg, you know. She was only, I think, 9 at the time when he was born.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 9 or 10 or maybe, I don't know.
You know, I don't...
Well, no, she was born in 37, so she was 11.
But I don't think of them...
No, as contemporaries.
It's that close together.
I know, yeah.
Because
Yeah,
it's
they
a
were.
generation.
Uh-huh. So,
Huh. But when did you, I mean, as adults, you all seem so close.
oh yeah.
When did that closeness occur? Or was that always there?
No, I don't think it was. I think we were always good friends, you know. We never really fussed with each other after we came out of childhood,
Yeah.
you know. But I think after we married and had our own children, that's when we became closer. Because then we were on common ground,
Yeah.
you know, and had a lot of the same problems.
Yeah. Was that the same with you and Mac?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Around that same time.
Yeah.
Started gathering together.
Mm-hmm.
Any final comments?
No,
Anything?
this has been fun.
Yeah, this has been fun.
Yeah.
I have a couple more minutes on this tape.
Uh-huh.
Say a little bit about Dad's childhood. What do you know?
Oh.
What do you know about that?
Well, I think his early childhood was good. And then as he grew up and his dad continued the drinking, you know, it became more difficult. And in fact, it just became unbearable for Doug. He just couldn't stand it, and he disliked his father intensely. And he ended up in a hospital for mentally ill people, and it was just terrible. And as I say, I saw with my own eyes what alcohol did to their family, and it was no good. I mean, it was so hard for Rose. But you know, I never heard her say a word against him. She never said anything. She never said an unkind word against Ferdy. That was what she called him, Ferdy. So...
I think what I'm going to do,
Uh-huh.
these last few minutes, is I'm going to just walk around the house with this thing, and maybe out in the garden.
Okay.
And I'll maybe use those as little clips inside this little
Oh, all right.
process.
Whatever you say, Steve.
But thank you.
Oh,
This has been fun.
it's been fun. Thank you for taking the patience, having the patience to do
No,
it.
that didn't take any patience.
I don't know where you want to take a picture of something. I'll take a picture of where I lay down. Let me get rid of some of this. Oh, you want to take a picture of Pop's chair?
This is right here. This is where Mary takes her nap every single day. And there's their little bag there to keep her couch clean.
That's a dirty trick.
And here is Pop's chair, huh?
Yeah. Let me take the napkin off of it so you can see it. Isn't that pretty?
You grew up with this chair.
I did. And he sat in that chair and listened to the radio. He'd bend over and so